Welcome to eXchanging Secrets podcast. I'm your co-host, Mindy Silva, also here with
Ara Reyna, Karen Macias,
Julie Luna,
and Marie Pinedo.
Before we jump in today, we just want to acknowledge that we live in California. And if you have family and friends here this week while we're recording, you may have been impacted by the fires that are happening across Los Angeles, Pasadena, Altadena, and many other places. We just want to take this moment to say that our hearts and our prayers are with you. And if there's any way we can support, we've sent GoFundMes on our Instagram page to help families in need. So please feel free to reach out to us. We know this will air maybe many months later, but the devastation will still be there in many homes and many families. So prayers and a moment of silence for those who have lost loved ones and have experienced the devastation. Well, thank you, friends, so much. We know you'll be praying along with us. We also want to thank those who have sponsored the podcast so that a moment like this could air. We have one of our sponsors here today, actually, Ara Reyna. Hello, Ara.
Hi, everybody.
Ara Reyna Homes. She distributes home loans to families who are looking to purchase a home. So please contact her if you have home loan needs. We also have Elsa Saldana of Elsa V Services on Instagram. Reach out to Elsa if you're looking for tax preparation services.
It's tax season.
Yes. Hit her up.
We have Alejandra and Luis Font from the Camp Transformation Center _ on Instagram. Thank you so much for being a sponsor. We're so proud to have you. We have our very own Julie Luna here. You can find her on an owner of one of the camps in Norco, and you can find Julie Luna at Julie Luna TC or the camp _ Norco. We also have Danny Hernandez from the Road Shop. You can find him on Road Shop _ USA. And they're doing specials, I think, right now on dash camera installs. So that is one of their specialties, one of many specialties.
Yes.
So reach out to the Road Shop _ USA. We have Shannon Laird at SH Laird at 0515. Thank you so much, friend, for being a continued sponsor. She does a monthly subscription along with Ara. So if you're looking to be a sponsor, you can also do monthly subscriptions here. And so today's topic, lady, we're about to jump in. Are you ready?
Yes. Let's do this.
Let's do it.
We are jumping into the ups and downs of parenting. And if anyone has ever been a parent, we know that it does not come with a manual. It does not come with instructions. And some of that can be really hard. And while it is a very beautiful space to be in, we don't always know what we're doing.
No,
that's the truth.
And we go through so many different stages.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, always changing.
Yes.
Every time you think, yes, I've got it. I've mastered this stage, they just change.
No, not really.
Like right now, my son, he just turned 4 on Wednesday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Riley and Aloncito are 10 years apart.
Yes. Almost exactly to the day.
Exactly to the day. So right now, my biggest challenge with him is that he seems to be like angry and rebellious and just snapping at everything. I even had a conversation with my husband and I said, look, I don't even want to mention the word like autism, but I'm like, we should get an evaluation done because he won't listen to us. He snaps. He starts hitting himself. And Alonso was like, you know what? Don't even think about it. Like he's a kid. He's only 4, but he won't listen to us at all. My aunt was like, Mija, like he's good to me. At least you don't have to worry about someone not wanting to take care of him. I think that because there's a lack of attention maybe from you guys because you guys are always working. And that's when the guilt starts to kick in. You know, like a couple of nights ago, I went to bed and I was like, God, this is hard. Like, it's like one of those things like, I don't want to sound like I don't love my son, but I'm like, what did I get myself into? Like, this is the hardest thing ever, you know, to try to connect with my son and be like, baby, I'm here. I have to I have to spend 15, 20 minutes with him before I go to work just for him to understand that mommy has to go make money so he can have his toys, he can have a home. And little by little, I think he is understanding, but he's just so mad at me for not being present all the time. So, I mean, for those that are, like stay-home moms, you are so blessed. It's hard. It's hard work.
job.
It's the hardest job in the world.
Yes,
sure.
it is. So I need an advice.
I have a quick question. Is he in preschool?
So that's another thing.
Okay.
I was very particular. Like, I didn't want him to go to school.
Okay.
I wanted him to, he has a tutor, and I had I had a meltdown with her about 2 weeks ago, and she's like, it is normal. You have the guilt, like you have that guilt, the mom
sure,
guilt.
yeah.
And I just broke down. I said, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know if I'm doing it right. She's like, look, don't overreact with him, because you're only going to make it worse. Because if you yelled, he's going to yell back, and that you're not going to get anywhere with that. Yeah. So I started spending quality time with him, because he's the type of kid, he doesn't have a tablet, he doesn't have a phone, he doesn't like to watch TV. He likes to have interaction with mom and dad, and he has a bike, he goes and he likes to walk the dogs, and he's like, mommy, I want to go to the park. So he's a kid, like he's an actual boy. He likes to go and get dirty. He loves to, I have a video that he's showering in dirt. My mom's like, don't get mad at me, but he wanted to do that. And he wanted, like, I gave him a bath afterwards. So my point is, he tells me, mommy, put the phone down. And he grabs my phone and he throws it.
Wow.
Like, he gets mad because my attention is like 30, 70, 50, 50. You know what I mean? It's not 100%. So I started reading to him. I started having more one-on-one, like, play day with him. And I think that it's helping. But the moment I'm not present, he snaps.
Okay. So when I was asking about, like, if he's at preschool or anything like that, only because that would alleviate some, he would be distracted, being around,
We are going to enroll him at Patria. He was going there, but he was too little when he was going there. So right now it would be daycare because he's still little.
Okay.
So when he was going there, he was really depressed.
Okay.
So, and they have, like, now the new apps where they start sending you photos of how your son is doing, during the day. Yeah. And all the photos I have, he's just like this. He's not even smiling. He's not enjoying. Even at playtime, they would send us pictures when he was at playtime, and the teacher was like, he's not interacting with kids. He's really sad. Oh. So now I even though he has a tutor, I spoke with my husband and I said, he needs to interact with kids. Like, he definitely needs to go to school. And like you said, it will maybe alleviate the fact that he needs so much attention from mom and dad.
And then it'll alleviate some guilt also.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because the guilt thing is real.
It's hard.
That's real.
And a lot of things go through my head. Like, it's just overwhelming. I don't want to be the only one speaking. So,
no, go for it. No.
But it's like, I don't want him to go through bullying. Like, I don't want him to be, so many things like wrap around my head, around my soul. Like, I know I think like the mom mentality and the dad mentality are completely different, because when I talk to my husband, we agree to disagree on a lot of things when it comes to parenting and raising our son together. But one of the things that I did tell him, I said, I would hate for my son to be bullied at school, just so much, nowadays there's so many, like shootings at schools, and
Your mind goes to the worst place.
My mind goes through the whole, like, the extreme, and starts thinking the worst.
Yeah.
And I need to, and I've been praying about it.
Yeah.
I've been praying. I'm like, Lord, I need guidance, because my son came with no guidance at all. Like,
none of us have guidance.
Well, I will say I'm no expert. I mean, I have 2 children, and I think all of us do our best, and all of us have experienced our challenges. So very early on, Riley and Alyssa were very different. Riley started off more passive, and Alyssa started off more, I would say, with a lot of sass. And she was more rebellious in her and just very much like, wanting my attention. Even if I was even with Riley for a few minutes, it would sort of aggravate her into anger, into her brother. And it was actually, we saw a shift in her behavior. To your point about the attention. We actually had her in preschool and her behavior was actually escalating. It was becoming worse.
Wow.
And Ruben, at that point, we're at the cusp of a financial decision, but also looking at the challenges we were having with Alyssa very early on. And Ruben decided at that point that he would work from home. And that's actually when we started to see the shift in Alyssa's behavior. We did change her schools. So I think the environment was shifted. We also put her in a class that had a mixture of kids with both regular sort of academic and others with behavioral challenges. So she had 5 aides in the classroom and they focused a lot on emotional regulation. And then they sent all that curriculum back to the home. Years later, we actually started to experience that with Riley. He was sort of unhinged emotionally. And I had watched, and I think when I think about a lot of relationships, they're damaged when people cannot control their emotions.
Yeah.
And so when I started to see that kids struggle with emotional, regulating themselves, Ruben and I focused a lot on that. We actually read books about it. We went through counseling at school. We sought outside help. We realized that this was beyond our parenting skills.
Yeah,
this was beyond what we could handle as parents. And we sought outside help with the school first and outside counseling. And they had books for us and these little like emoji looking things and little stuffed animals. And it was like, how are you feeling today when I walk through the door? And it started to connect their feelings with tangible words. And how to express that emotion. And now, everyone's like, they could not even imagine Alyssa in this like rebellious stage because she is so calm, cool, collected, confident, and almost seems shy to some people, right? But unless you really get to know her. And Riley is one of the most emotionally intelligent young men at 14. It's actually his teacher actually gave him a citizenship award because she was so impressed. At 14 years old, she said, he does, yes, he has academic success, but his emotional intelligence is like quite high. I imagine you worked on it. I'm like every day, because I wanted peace in my home. But to my point, it was a process. It didn't. And I remember laying down at night, just like you one day and saying, God, please help me. Every gray hair I have has come from these moments. What did I do wrong in my skill set that is not translating? And then I think I also was a big shift for me is I read a book about parenting and how you can have different children. And I let go of the expectation of what they would be. And that's huge. We had this conversation, right, Julie?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it gets tough sometimes. Like you want to, want your kid to come out a certain way, but we have no control of how they're going to act or their personalities.
Yeah.
It's so huge. But I wanted to circle back about how you said about your son, you were nervous about the shootings, about the bullying. I always, was always scared of that. But to me, what has helped me, and, easier said than done, I just pray. I'm like, God, it's in your hands. I can't shelter my kid. I can't shelter them away from like getting bullied or whatnot. And it's happened to my son.
Yeah.
And I tried to go to the school and it was just this big old thing. My son got mad at me and I just pray, God help me, cover him with your holy blood. Like it's so hard to shelter your kids. I don't know what other advice you guys have, but the reality of it, it's happening. And the kids it gets to the point that now my son's not going to tell me. And I hope he never hears this, but you know what I mean? It's like little things like that. It's so hard.
With the bullying part, I always, like with my kids now, what I always tell my girls is they'll tell me stories. And of course, you guys are praying, you're just like, but then the only thing I always tell them is, baby, you have other friends. Just hang out. Like you can't control, like you continue being kind. And if you notice that somebody's being a certain way, go. Yeah. You have other friends. There's other friends.
Walk away from the situation.
Please, like just go, like,
Yes.
Kids are so
I
mean
know.
these days.
I know.
Guys, I mean, seriously, like we went to, I think it was like Chick-fil-A. And my mom was telling me about a story of like a kid was making fun of my son because he was wearing a diaper. This was last year or a year and a half ago. Because he does not look like he's 4. And he didn't look like he was 3 when he was 3. So this kid was like bullying at him because he was wearing a diaper, and my mom had to like step in and she said, he's a baby. He's like, I think he was like 2.5 or 3, something like that. And so he started like attacking my mom, like, well, he shouldn't be wearing a diaper. He's so big. And I'm like, this is at a public place. Like, I can only imagine how things are in school, but you're right.
Yeah.
You know,
can't shelter
when
them.
a lot of us met at the age of a lot of like your kids are now, you know what I mean? And if you compare back then to now, it's like night and day.
Yeah.
We didn't experience any of that. I mean, we didn't really heard about like suicide or depression, or we didn't even at least talk about it. Like now it's triple or even more. Yes. So yeah, I mean, parenting, it's definitely hard for me right now. Mm-hmm. It's got me down. My husband was like, hey, I feel you. Like it's hitting you different lately. And we actually, it's kind of like not funny, but like timing's like perfect. When you said we're talking about parenting, I was so looking forward because I need guidance from my friends. Like you girls, you know, like I run into Maria at church, and it was like, I looked back and I was like, oh, that's my friend. I was like, she's not her what she did. You know, the funny thing is like, I'm like, she's not going to look at her phone. I'm like, hey, I see you. She's like, where?
I didn't have my glasses on, so I'm like, I really don't know where.
Look down. I'm going to wait. And I was like,
yeah. Friend advice is huge.
And
I mean,
like, she's like, all of your kids, she's
I just seen her this weekend. I'm like, you are not my...
I feel like you were going to share something on the parenting side when we were talking, but I'd love to hear your perspective.
Yes, please.
I mean, I definitely don't have any answers that are like, oh my goodness, solved. I can say that both the kids have definitely experienced challenges at school in the sense of just not having a friend group that I think was really helpful to them, maybe good influences to them, whatnot. And we made a conscious decision to try and put them in an environment that changed that. And so for us, we were at Rancho for a long time. When the Pomona campus started, it was smaller, and it was something that we thought, okay, we can help at and want to try. And actually at the time that they launched that, they didn't have youth, and both the kids were going into youth. Anthony, was already in youth at Rancho, but Solana was going to be going into youth. And so we went for a couple weeks, and we had told one of the pastors, you know, we love it here, but the kids loved youth. And that I think is something when we find, so from the perspective of like finding something that they actually enjoy, that they come home talking about, that they're like, oh, so-and-so said this to me, or I got to do this today. And that's what they would do with youth and with children's church. And so we had told one of the pastors, like, we want to stay here, but we'll come back when there's youth, because I don't want to take away the aspect that my kids are asking to go to this. And a lot of kids don't ask for that. And so I don't want to miss that opportunity. Within 2 weeks, they had told us they were going to launch youth if we would help get it started. And we've been there ever since. And the group that the kids have started to, you know, just form these relationships that really remind me of this has been like life-changing. But I also think that it has taken an effort on Aunt and my part. Like when they say, hey, there's a youth activity, or so we teach at youth now, so that we get to know like the kids, we get to know their families, we get to know they're coming over. Our house right now is like youth are there at least once or twice a week. Like somebody's there, they're coming over. But we've made a conscious effort to make it that way, so that way the kids have an environment where they're not like, can I go somewhere? And if you guys all know me, like nobody's going somewhere with my kid that I don't know where they're going. Right. So like, and I mean, if you know my husband, that's primarily the reason why.
Yeah, for sure.
But instead they're coming over, and we're trying to do more activities with them so that we can kind of see how it's going, give them their space and let them be kids, but also make sure that they're in an environment that's safe. And it has been life-changing for them. Honestly, if you ask them both of them, their real friends are in the church setting.
In the church.
Yeah.
Oh, I love
that. And even Anthony's best friend, he now comes with us to church. We pick him up on Wednesdays. We pick him up on Sundays. He comes with us. So I feel like from a parenting perspective, one of the things I had to change, I'm very much like, my schedule is this. I have to do this, all these things. And my kids are bigger than everybody's. So my son's 17, Solana's 13. And I kind of feel like a couple years ago, I was like, oh, I'm losing time. Like all of a sudden, it just feels like it's just going. And I really had to make a conscious effort. Like, nope, I'm going to do that. Like, I'm going to make time for this.
So I'm
committed.
So a friend asking for an advice because I feel right now in the season that I'm in with my son and how his behavior has been lately, and my behavior as well. What would be your advice? I am trying to, I wouldn't say change him, but I think I have to work on me first.
Yes.
Is that something like what would it be? So it's Ara, who's never had any kids. I'm 41. He's 4 years old. So what would be your guys' advice? Okay. For me, for anyone that's maybe listening to the podcast and has the same situation that I am in right now, what would be your advice? I am trying to work on myself, but I'm also putting so much pressure on my son because I'm like, you can't do that. You can't be like that. So what would be your advice? Like, I feel like I am doing the wrong thing because I am putting all that pressure and kind of blame on my son. And I don't want to sound mean, but that's when I'm in the house, when I'm with him.
Yeah.
And it breaks my heart because I feel like I'm being a bad mom.
Yeah.
And I'm blaming him. I'm like, you have everything. You have this. Why are you being so ungrateful? Why this, Aloncito? Why that? Blah, blah, blah. Mommy and daddy work hard for you. But I think in his little mind,
He doesn't
know.
No, he doesn't get it.
He doesn't know. He just wants you.
and yes,
He just wants you.
and it's like, I am putting all that blame on my son. And then I see my husband getting also irritated. And it's like, I feel like we are the problem. He's not the problem.
Yeah. I will say the mom guilt is real.
Yeah.
I experienced
Yes, it is.
that.
I think we've all been through there.
By the time I had children, I did not have a 9-to-5. It had always been sort of those salaried positions and executive roles. And I had incredible guilt around not spending enough time with my children. And there was a season I got to work from home doing consulting and nonprofit work as an executive. And they would come home and I'd be in the room and they'd be like, mommy. And I'm like, I'm busy. I'm working. I know I'm here. And then they would say, you're always working.
Yeah.
And they just would pull at my heartstrings. And as it has evolved, I now see them. So Riley made the comment the other day, Mom, you're always working. He said it again and he hadn't said it in a long time. And I said, you're right, I am. And I said, but I love the things that I'm doing. He's like, you're right, Mom. You do come home happy all the time. Good for you, Mom.
Aww.
And it was like this shift inside me. It was the first time in 14 years that I didn't experience that mom guilt. It is a hard bridge to cross over. Karen and I just talked about this. My kids are no longer in sports because what I realized was that for myself, the kids were in burnout mode. I was in burnout mode. And when they were on the field, they weren't actually spending time with me. So even though I was doing it for them, I wasn't actually with them. I wasn't talking to them. I wasn't engaging with them. And for better or worse, most coaching is yelling. It's a lot of yelling.
Right.
It's a lot of emotion and it's a lot of expressing that on the field. And because if you don't have a child who is emotionally regulated, that can be problematic. And it was becoming a problem. And so we all took a step back from that. And I started to spend more time with my children, riding bikes, going outside and playing. The time that they would normally be on the field was the time I was like, well, I would have been there, so I should be here with them.
Right.
And so we started to do more things like that. And now, they're both very much emotionally regulated until they go through another stage of puberty or something, but I have better conversation, better relationship, slowing down some places. I have a hard time, like you. I have a hard time slowing down. We all do. We all just so hard. We say yes to everything. I don't know why. We will fix, maybe when we're 50, we'll fix that. I don't know. But, but I just, I find that, you'll have to find places to slow down. And to your point, it isn't his fault, but it's hard for us to get there. It's trial and error, friend.
Yeah.
And you're not alone. I guess that's the big thing. You're not.
And I mean, I think my advice would be, I would check to see if he really does have autism or not, just to get that checked out. And then just like, as a parent, like I have a lot of regrets. Everyone that knows me, I'm a yeller, and I did a lot of yelling, horrible yelling when my kids were really little, and I cry myself to sleep sometimes because of how bad I was and things that I replay in my brain. So don't yell. I'm working through it. I think I've gotten so much better.
Yeah.
Now I'm just calm, and I'm like, why are you yelling? You're yelling at me. I'm not like, I have to, but it's like us too. Like you mentioned, it's me. I'm more of a yeller than my husband, way more. So I think that's another advice.
Gentle parenting.
We
say, does it work? Does it not?
Ish.
We try. We all try.
I'm not going to blame my parents, but yeah, that's what I grew up seeing. I got hit. I got this and that. Yeah. So I felt like that's the right thing to do. And as I got older and I got friends and I talked to people, I'm like, that's not the right way.
There's to break those patterns.
Yeah. I think learning to, I don't know if you're like that. I have a lot of regrets in my life, but yeah, those would be my 2 advice for you. Just, calm.
To add to, because earlier I heard you say that you might suspect some, so that I heard you mention evaluation. It doesn't hurt.
It doesn't
hurt.
Just
you have nothing to
check
lose.
that off.
Okay. And the reason I'm big about that is because there's early intervention is
if he is
so many resources.
Honestly, the best thing you could do, because right now he's at the age, right? Like, so the earlier, the better. And just in case.
I just really think that he is so mad. He gets so mad that we are not spending that quality time with him because, like Mindy was saying, if we do something, it's not full on attention.
Yeah.
Like soccer, like sports. And like it's soccer for us because he loves to play soccer. But I think that if we have a mandatory like family time, just bonding time, he loves to do that. Like he loves to do that. My husband's starting to implement like walks in the morning with him, the dogs, like all of us together, and I think that's really helping. But at the end of the day, things happen, things pop up, and we are not always disciplined to do it every single day, and that's where he gets mad.
Yeah, and that's okay.
Yeah,
as he learns to grow and emotionally regulate himself. What I found myself doing more was actually sitting my kids down and explaining situations to them. And he's still little, but as he gets older, it will start to sink in, and I would sit there, I'd say, Mommy loves you.
Yeah.
Mommy wants to spend time. This is when we will do it. So we would like set a date on the calendar so they had something to look forward to. Again, once he starts schooling, he'll start to process like dates and times, and it'll feel
and they're
like
so
that for him.
Smart. I mean, they're so smart. I cannot even digest how smart he is. I'm like, you're only 4.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They grow emotional intelligence.
I think they watch everything, they copy everything, they get it.
Yeah. Ladies, I feel like this is a really robust conversation. Yes. I'd love to keep going with it. And so I'd love to take this time to say, like, let's do a part 2. I think this definitely deserves a part 2.
Yes.
So we just want to thank you for tuning into this episode. We hope that these little, I call them nuggets of wisdom, whatever we want to call them, that these tips and advice have been helpful for you. If you're struggling in your parenting, you're not in it alone. Please reach out for help to your school, to your counselors, to good friends who you see doing parenting well. It takes community to raise a child. And if you have any questions, and we can be welcome to send us messages. We are by no means expert. Karen has expertise in behavioral education, special education. So feel free to send us messages. But we love you, friends. Thank you for tuning in.
Love you guys.
Friends for joining us. Tune in each week as we give you an intimate window into our decades of friendship and exchange secrets on how we are striving to successfully navigate life's challenges. Remember to like and subscribe to our podcast on YouTube and other podcast platforms. The content in our podcast is for information and entertainment purposes only and does not constitute medical, legal, financial, or other professional advice. Please consult with a professional for specific advice tailored to your situation. The views and opinions expressed by our guests and sponsors are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of Tell Me Your Secrets, LLC.